Modern science allows us to study the structure of this world and its laws more deeply. And many scientists already understand that in addition to our usual physical world, there is another one, the spiritual one. What you learn from this video may surprise and even shock. And these are not just big words, because the research I'm going to tell you about today shocked even the scientists who conducted it. How do you think blind people begin to see better than sighted people when they experience near-death experiences? What abilities does a person acquire when leaving his body after death? You will learn about this in this video, and I strongly advise you to watch it to the end. Enjoy watching. In the fall of 1966, our Institute for Psychophysical Research made a single request to readers and listeners through newspapers and radio. We asked those people who had out-of-body experiences to respond. At that time, we received more than 400 responses from Londoners who, at some point in their lives, observed reality while outside their physical bodies. At that time, we began work on studying various types of hallucinations, lucid dreams, and out-of-body experiences, says Celia Green, director and founder of the scientific institution. Celia Elizabeth Green was born in 1935 in London into a family of geography teachers. The girl loved mathematics and physics from elementary school, but later gave preference to the humanities. After graduating from Oxford, she received a master's degree in literature, but continued her education, becoming interested in psychology. She supplemented her theoretical knowledge with practical research in the field of psychokinetic phenomena. She was interested in the unique possibilities of the human psyche: levitation, teleportation, pyrokinesis. But later, near-death experiences and out-of-body experiences became the main focus of the Institute's work. So, Celia conducted a survey of people who responded to the ad. This study helped to understand the circumstances under which out-of-body experiences occur most often, as well as what they feel during this experience. But first, let's figure out what the term out-of-body experiences is. Official science interprets it as follows. It is a phenomenon in which a person feels outside of his own body, observing him from the outside. This happens in different situations, but there are several frequently recurring moments. The first one is during falling asleep or right before waking up. The probability is higher during ragged, shallow sleep, for example, due to noise or stress. Second, a number of diseases, for example, migraine, epilepsy, nervous disorders. Third, physical exertion and extreme exertion can also cause feelings of separation from the body. Fourth, out-of-body sensations are sometimes experienced along with visions during near-death experiences. Fifth, during accidents, hypnosis, meditation, anesthesia, suffocation, injury. Sixth, pilots and astronauts sometimes experience similar sensations during extreme overloads. There is even a special term for such cases: gravitational loss of consciousness. The first feature of out-of-body experiences, which Green highlighted as a result of her research, is that a person, having left his physical body, continues to perceive everything around him as before. A person retains almost complete consciousness. The vast majority of physical and sensory perception is also preserved. Man sees, hears, and touches. The weakest senses seem to be smell and taste. A person observes what is happening not from the material body, but from the outside. The distance to the body can be either large or small. If the distance is small, the person usually moves to a position inaccessible to the physical body, for example, hovering near the ceiling. During long-distance travel, he can visit Paris, although his body remains in New York. In an out-of-body state, you can monitor events, but it is practically impossible to change them, or at least somehow influence what is happening. A person is unable to participate in events on a physical level, remaining only a bystander, because for a while he becomes immaterial. Out-of-body experiences are no less real than any experience of everyday life. Most of the subjects stated that, being outside their body, they saw people and things as usual, and only a few of them noted that at that moment their feelings were enhanced or magnified, the researcher explained. Thus, people with impaired vision during out-of-body experiences began to see everything with sharper, crystal-clear vision. For example, one of the interviewees described such observations. "I could see the room in great detail, even specks of dust. Moreover, Even people who are blind from birth describe vivid visual images obtained during exit from the body. Blind respondents shared their perception of our world, often in great detail. Sometimes they had a feeling of extraordinary visual acuity. In some cases, the vision was perfect. Consider the case of Vicky. At the age of 22, she fell into a coma after a car accident. I've never seen anything. I've never distinguished between light and shadow, nothing. I didn't have any dreams. My senses of taste, touch, hearing, and smell helped me in my sleep. There were no visual memories. Vicky shared her experience. After the accident, she suddenly realized that she could see perfectly clearly what was happening in the intensive care unit, where a medical team was vigorously resuscitating someone. Vicky realized that the body belonged to her and she was probably dead. She flew up to the ceiling and saw trees, birds, and people for the first time. It was incredible, really beautiful, and I was consumed by this feeling because before that I couldn't even imagine what light was. Another man born blind, who had an out-of-body experience, described seeing blue skies and snow on the streets, and was even able to describe a snowplow. A woman named Marcia said that when she was out of her body, she saw as if she had vision, but she did not have the feeling that she was seeing with her eyes. Even though she clearly perceived her surroundings, it had to be a special kind of vision. By the standards of modern medicine, this is simply impossible. If the blind see during out-of-body experiences, they do not see with their eyes. Obviously, they see with a different, heightened vision of the soul. Blind people who are unable to distinguish colors see amazing details, such as, for example, the shade of clothing of people present in the room. They see the entire resuscitation procedure and describe the faces of the people who enter their room during this process. In fact, they describe something that they would not be able to see in ordinary life, for the simple reason that they are blind. These facts allow us to conclude that the soul or astral body, as some researchers call it, is flawless, perfect in its functions. The same thing happened with people who had impaired auditory function. So, one of the study participants recalled, "When I saw my physical body from the outside, I wondered, can I really hear without special devices? To make sure of this, I approached my roommate, who was asleep at the time, and heard his breathing. I could hear it extremely clearly. I noticed that my eyesight was also sharp." Some respondents mentioned the brightness or liveliness of colors in the out-of-body state. The colors seemed very clear, bright, and sparkling. All the surrounding objects were brilliant. The colors seemed alive and indescribably beautiful. Those people who experienced out-of-body experiences in the dark were surprised to find that they could see clearly without using any optics, even though it was pitch dark. For example, one of the respondents said that he could see and recognize people he knew. Another described seeing his room at night, which seemed to be filled with light, as if it were day. Some of the study participants also noted their ability to observe everything around them at once, or to see objects a little transparent. This is confirmed by such reports. I could look at the walls, ceiling, and my entire room at once. I saw walls and furniture and looked through them at the same time. I saw my brother sleeping in bed in the next room. The wall between us was not an obstacle. I saw the whole school building from above, as if it had no roof. Here is an excerpt from Celia Green's book, Out of the Body Experiences. Many respondents noted that in the near-death state, all thought processes proceed as usual, or even more clearly. We have collected such evidence to confirm this. I was thinking as clearly as at any other time in my life. My mind was as clear as a bell. Thoughts come at lightning speed. My mind was clearer than ever before. I was so enlightened and had never felt such spiritual vigor before. Exploring out-of-body experiences, Celia Green drew attention to another feature that confirmed the reality of the phenomenon under study. During such experiences, a person can travel certain distances and receives information about the situation in places far from his physical body. For example, one of the interviewees said that during her out-of-body experiences, she was in the hospital after surgery. This woman felt unwell and did not get out of bed. The patient was lying in a room that had an angular shape, so she could not see what was in the inaccessible part of the room. One morning, I felt like I was floating up, and then I found myself looking down at the rest of the patients. I could see myself supported by pillows, very pale and sick. I saw a nurse run up to my bed. The woman described her situation. This participant in the study said that at first, it seemed to her that she was delusional. Around the corner of her room, the woman saw a plump woman with a bandaged head sitting in bed. She was knitting something out of blue woolen threads. This vision ended as abruptly as it had begun. On the same day, the interviewee told her sister about her experience, who came to visit the patient. This story shocked the visitor, because when she entered the room, she saw the same plump lady with knitting, who had also just undergone surgery and had a bandage on her head. The next case is related to a young man who fell off a motorcycle at high speed. I saw myself standing in the middle of the road, feeling neither fear nor any painful sensations. I saw the motorcycle and my body lying by the side of the road. At that moment, I was fully aware that it was my body. I could see the wheel of my motorcycle turning, and I could hear the engine running. At the same time, I watched as the driver of the car I had collided with got out of the car, which had braked far enough away from the accident site. At the same time, I saw another driver get out of his car, which had stopped in the oncoming lane, and turn off the engine of my motorcycle, then pick it up and move it a little further because it was blocking the way to my body. The first driver took me by the shoulders with his hands and tried to lift me up. As soon as he did that, I returned to my body, the interviewee recalled. Another story went like this. The elderly man was in his house. Suddenly, he was out of his body and then floated out of the room and into the street, right through the wall. After flying through the city, the man found himself in front of an unfamiliar house. In the window of the second floor of this house, the narrator noticed his old friend, whom he had not seen for almost 2 years. That was the end of the out-of-body experience. 7 months after the incident, the old friends met again. One of them said that he moved to live in a new neighborhood. And the second one surprised me with an accurate description of the new house and the surrounding environment in an area where he had never been before. In her study, Celia noted that some of the participants took what happened for granted, without trying to evaluate their experience. Most often, the respondents described their out-of-body experiences as something strange. Green herself did not put forward any hypotheses explaining the nature of the described situations. She called them a phenomenon, the origin of which has yet to be answered by science. In conclusion, I would like to quote an excerpt from the work of Marina Weiler, PhD from the University of Virginia. It was published in 2024 and focuses on the same topic as Celia Green's research. In such cases, people feel that they have separated from their physical body but connected with the universe on a deeper level. People who have gone through this often report that their view of the world and their place in it have changed radically. Detachment from the physical body often leads to a feeling of interconnectedness with the whole of life and a deeper emotional connection with other people. These feelings persist even after changing the perception of a person, thereby affecting personal relationships and social harmony. Out-of-body experiences may seem more real than reality itself. People who have experienced out-of-body experiences often become more compassionate, patient, and understanding. More than half of the participants in our study described their new relationships with other people as calmer and more harmonious. Many people say that they are now convinced of the possibility of life after death. In his article, Weiler examines all possible hypotheses of what is actually happening in the brain, causing these changes, but so far it remains unclear. In conclusion, I want to say a few words. If we recall the Holy Christian Scriptures, then before the fall, Adam and Eve, according to the biblical texts, possessed ideal bodies. The book of Genesis mentions that they were created in the image and likeness of God, which implies the presence of greatness and beauty in their appearance. Although the specific physical characteristics of Adam and Eve are not described in Scripture, it can be assumed that they were free from any physical disabilities and diseases, which makes them models of human perfection. That is, they possessed ideal bodies in the image and likeness of God. And it's not a fact that they had material bodies. After the resurrection, Jesus Christ had a physical body that was different from an ordinary human body. The Gospels describe that he appeared to his disciples in a body that could be touched and that retained traces of his suffering, such as nail wounds. This is confirmed by the fact that Jesus invited the apostles to touch him so that they could make sure that he was not a ghost, but a real person. However, the nature of this body is controversial among theologians. Some argue that the resurrected body of Jesus was glorified and incorruptible, which implies its ideality and freedom from limitations. For example, he could suddenly appear and disappear, indicating certain supernatural properties. I see some parallels between this and the stories of blind people who experienced near-death experiences. According to their stories, they did not see with our usual vision, but with the sharpened vision of the soul, which in turn indicates that when they got rid of the physical shell, they may have acquired the very spiritual bodies that Adam and Eve possessed before the fall, or Jesus after the resurrection. The same can be said about other opportunities that people had after physical death. For example, teleportation or communication through telepathy. Many people said that as soon as they thought of a particular place, they immediately found themselves there. Do you think there is life after death? Write your opinion in the comments. If you want to learn more about life after death and the afterlife, then I recommend watching my other videos. Please don't forget to like this video if you liked it. See you soon and have a nice day.